Hi, I'm Scott Noonan, the CEO of Audio Advice. I am super excited to take you on a tour of this incredible smart home. Now let's go have some fun. For those of you that have seen our showcase videos, you know we do really cool videos of neat smart homes that are quite incredible. But this one is so special, and we got enough feedback from people that said, hey, can you slow this down and walk us through some stories about how things are done and some details about the craftsmanship to pull this stuff off. So I'm gonna take my time today and really walk you through some nitty-gritty detail. If you're a builder, an interior designer, or an architect, and you're trying to learn this stuff or come up with some neat tricks, or we have a lot of smart home installers around the country that follow our videos to try to learn how to do these tricks, this is gonna be for you. Get ready, and let's start with the media room. We put a media room in a place that a lot of people would find very hard to pull off. You can see the open glass behind me. We've got a full pool, a hot tub, a full pickleball court, and floor to ceiling glass all the way through. So how do you put your media room in here when you don't have a dedicated home theater? Well, let me show you what we've done. So we have a huge screen in here. This is a 145-inch phantom screen from Stewart Film Screen. And what you'll notice is it's ambient light rejecting, which means it tries to take the picture that comes from the projector and send it back to the viewers, but it rejects light that's coming from the outside, which makes the picture really good. One of the things that people often ask us about when we do rooms like this is oftentimes they'll say, hey, can you do a big video wall or a big TV? In this case, this screen is 145-inch diagonal, so it is huge. And there's a whole host of reasons we did it like this, because the homeowner enjoys sports and everything else, so it's a full 16:9 screen. When you think about doing a video wall, and I'm just going to walk through these kinds of details as we go through this tour today, there are times that you're going to want to do a video wall and times to do a projector screen. Why did we do the screen here? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, the homeowner really cared about getting the audio right. Atmos videos are so good now that our ability to have really good sound in a room is way beyond what it was 10 years ago. So by doing a screen, we can hide the left, center, and right speakers behind the screen and actually make sure the voices and the sound are all coming from the center of the screen, which you cannot do with a video wall. So that's number one. Number two, it's actually less expensive to create a great immersive experience this way than to buy a big video wall of the same size. And the third is when it's time to upgrade. So for instance, when the world moves from 4K to 8K, it's time to get an 8K projector. You swap the projector, leave the screen, and it's totally done, as opposed to saying, what do I now do with my video wall? Now there's other cases that video walls make sense, but just a good example in here. Now how do we pull off when all of those windows are totally open, getting a great picture? Well, we need a very bright projector in addition to the light rejecting screen. So what you'll see here is we have the QL7000 from Epson. It's a 10,000 lumen projector. Now what happens is we use our home theater design tool that you can go use for free at audioadvice.com. Pretty much everybody in the world uses it today to design theaters. But what it will show you is how many nits you can get on the screen, and that's basically how bright it is to make sure you can see HDR correctly. This particular Epson as well, we had to map it out because if you look at the ceiling, you'll see the arch going up in the woodwork all the way to the trim work. And it's got to be mounted right in front of that. Well, it turns out there's only 2 inches of excess space to be able to throw a picture that big from this projector. So we really had to work through in the tool, set it up perfectly, and know we could get it here perfectly, get the zoom perfectly, and set it up on the screen. So now let's move and talk a little bit about the audio in this room. So again, I said earlier that the homeowner really cared about getting good audio. So this is a JBL Synthesis system with the SCL6 speakers up here. What makes all these JBL speakers in this room quite incredible is their compression driver speakers, which is very different from most speakers that have silk dome. What makes them powerful? Well, they have an efficiency that they can create a slam, and they have ability to be really soft and then hit you in the chest really hard from the efficiency of the compression driver. That's everywhere throughout here. Now, in addition, we obviously need to get bass in this room to produce a great sound. What you'll see here is we've hidden in the wall 2 subwoofers. And I want to just pause a second and talk about craftsmanship in here. In the tool, we show you where every single speaker should go in a theater room. But when you talk about subwoofers, having 2 subs gives us a lot more consistency to create great bass in every single seat in the room. But I want you to know something really cool. These are perfectly symmetrical on the screen and with the trim work. So you might think, oh, that's easy to do. When it's done, let's just go set the subs in. But what we have to do in advance is map out this wall and know where every 2x4 is going to go in this wall in advance, so that we got the cavities to put the back boxes in that the subwoofers go in, and you end up with 2 things happening in the end. 1 is incredible sound in here, and 2 is it looks aesthetically beautiful. That's what we're trying to achieve. So the other thing I want to talk about is the other speakers, not just the front ones, but if you look up in the ceiling, we have a pair of beautiful in-ceiling Atmos speakers, and you'll see we've completely color matched the grills so they look perfect on the ceiling. And then you'll see the rears in here. Again, the craftsmanship of matching up not just the sound, but the beauty and the aesthetics of the symmetry that we're doing in these. And then obviously we've got 1 remote control. The customer can use this as a control for a remote. They can turn everything on, bring the shades down, turn off the lights, do everything they need to do in this media room. Now let's move on to the next room. So you can imagine in a luxury home with today's technology, no one wants to walk around a home at night clicking off switches all around the house because they want to go to bed, or getting up in the morning and turning them all on. Instead, we now have controlled lighting. There's 2 main types of controlled lighting that exist. One is called localized, where you just replace all the traditional switches with controllable switches that you can use with your iPad or iPhone or a normal keypad-based system. The other is the most advanced, and that's called panelized lighting. We generally will do 1 of 2 systems when we do panelized lighting, either Lutron or Control 4. What we have here, because the homeowner wanted everything perfectly integrated from a smart home perspective, is a Lux system from Control 4. You'll see the keypad is just gorgeous. It's their top of the line. You'll see there's no light gaps in here. It is really easy to read the engravings. And the primary thing we're trying to do is design it so it's easy for the homeowner to live in the house. So just like you have the ability to hit 1 button to turn off the lights at night, another to turn on your morning scene, and another to turn on your evening scene or entertain, every room has a set of scenes that we control. At Audio Advice, we've spent enough time designing these things that we have a standard we use in every home to start with, and then we work with the designer and the homeowner to adjust them. But most of the time, honestly, we know what the homeowner is going to want because we've done so many. So you'll see here we've got the family button that turns on all the lights in this room the way the homeowner wants most of the time. Hit that button once, it turns them on, second time off, and then we have all the other loads behind them. And then at the very bottom, we have the 2 adjacent rooms. So we've got the dining room and the gallery. The other cool thing I want you to see is from an installer standpoint, or just like real technical standpoint, this has a magnetic grill that keeps it, when you're putting these things on and off, from ever breaking or tweaking or getting cracks. It's just really, really well done. The other thing that's quite powerful about keypads is the ability to backlight them. So the first thing you'll see is these blue buttons here showing which ones are on, and you'll see the gallery is off. If I hit the button on the gallery, it turns on and now denotes that. The other thing about the backlighting is when there's plenty of light in the room, the keypad does not have backlighting because it's very easy to read the engraving. When the lights turn off in the room, what you'll see is that the engravings will then light up, which makes it really, really easy to read. Now, a little detail for you pros out there who are learning how to do this for your customers. In primary bedrooms, what we typically like to do is when it goes a little bit dark in that room, you will see the backlighting. But when it goes fully dark, when someone's going to sleep, we will generally take the backlighting totally off or all the way to the level that the homeowner wants, so it doesn't leave light in the room when they're trying to sleep. We also have the ability to do any color that someone wants. And so you can see here, this is perfectly matched to the color of this wall. But around this home, there are other places we have these keypads. It makes a lot of sense to do a black keypad because it's in the office, or a different color, or paint it to match perfectly. And one last little detail, when you're in a home of this incredible craftsmanship, you even match the electrical outlets so that just like the keypad that has no screws in it, you'll see it's a screwless plate, the outlets themselves have no screws and are matched to the keypads next to them. So we talked a little bit about lighting control. Now let's move on to lighting fixtures. The majority of the fixtures in your house are recessed fixtures, and most of you will recognize this as a standard home recessed fixture that looks like this. But when you move up into luxury homes, people start moving into much higher end fixtures. Now, what do those do for you? And I'm gonna show you a couple things. One is aesthetics. You can see the gaps here. There's no gaps in the high-end fixtures. We typically have a whole list of fixtures we'll show homeowners in our showrooms that go everything from DMF, which is in here, to Lutron and others. The other thing that's quite different about high-end fixtures is the transformer in them is much more advanced. You can see in cheaper ones that you might get from Lowe's, there's a tiny little transformer in here. And then if you look at the technology that exists in a high-end fixture, it's way, way better. In the high-end fixture, this better transformer and technology gives us the capability to have 98 CRI, which is the color rendering index. So the colors you see when you look into a painting or you see someone in your house are so much better than what you would get in a less expensive solution. The other thing it gives us the capability to do is provide perfectly consistent color even if we're at full lumen level, so we can go to way higher lumen level in advanced fixtures, over 1,000, 1,250 lumens, and we can dim it all the way down to nighttime scenes without ever changing what the color temperature is, which you just can't do in a cheaper fixture. If you look up in the ceiling in this living room, you will see DMF Artifacts fixtures. They're 4-inch fixtures, and what you'll notice is we perfectly controlled the beam spread and the lumen level that we've designed in advance to provide an even spread and highlight areas that we want, but it doesn't have hot spots in the room. Those 4-inch fixtures look beautiful in the ceiling here, but when we move over here, you're gonna see some incredible craftsmanship from the builder here, where we have a fully arched ceiling. The challenge in an arch ceiling like this is you can't put 4-inch fixtures because you'll have the arch and the fixture would stick out. So we did matching 2-inch DMF Artifacts all the way down this, and you'll see it just looks gorgeous, but we've also, again, controlled the lighting that we're doing in there. So let's move from recess and talk about when you're working with great designers, designers are able to find unbelievable decorative fixtures. So these would be the decorative fixtures. These actually are custom made in Charleston and just look beautiful in this kitchen. Then if we swing over here, you'll see this chandelier that, again, the designer picked out that works perfectly with what we've done in terms of the ambient lighting in the room. Okay, so now let's switch to accent lighting, which is when you're trying to highlight either a painting or something else. And you'll see we've got under cabinet lighting here in the kitchen. But I really want to focus, I'm going to walk you over to these bookshelves because it's a great way to see when we can combine accent lighting that's coming from the recess in the top with really well done linear. Do you see the pop that's happening in the books and everything in here? Well, what we've done is you've got linear lighting that's running up all throughout the inside here, and we have a 45-degree angle that's diffusing the light and putting it all throughout so you don't see the shadows. Instead, what you see is a pop inside the bookshelves. So I've moved to the bar that's just off the media room we were in, and what I want to show you in here is the ability to use aimable lights. So we designed aimable in here so that we can light up the bar on one side, and then on the other side we can light up those pictures. Also notice the attention to detail, that they are fully custom painted to match the ceiling color. The other thing to note is we moved from the bar over to the primary. I just want to show you in the wine cellar here, there's also linear lighting that matches the 3000 Kelvin, which we use all throughout this house. Now let's head over to the primary and I'll show you a couple more things. So we've now moved over to the primary. What I wanted to show you here was another usage of aimable fixtures. So what you'll see if you look in the ceiling here is this is a 45-degree angle on both sides, but by using the DMF aimables, we can actually point them down and create that same great ambient lighting here in the primary. So it's totally natural to transition from talking about lighting fixtures to talk about motorized shades. And the reason is they work hand in hand to control the light in the home. So if you walk into the primary here with me, obviously no one's gonna go to bed with all of these windows totally open. What's really cool that we did in here, we were one of the first in the world to say to Lutron, we want to get a motorized track that's completely arced. So you'll see here, we did a drapery track that's arced on both sides. So we work hand in hand with the interior designer. The interior designer gets the fabric, we do the electronics, they come together to create this incredible look that you see matches perfectly with what's going on here on the 4-poster bed, plus the curtains here where we've got custom Roman shade kits. So again, we provide the electronics, then the interior designer comes in and says what they want to do there, and they match everything in the room. Now, where this gets really tricky, all this is hardwired. So you can imagine during the pre-wire, we got to have everything perfectly mapped with the builder to get the wire in the exact right place for all the shades, the drapes, you name it. Well, what do you do when you've got a door like this? Obviously, we can't wire it when there's a door. So this is completely battery powered, same Roman kit, totally matched up, same button, everything drops together and it opens together in the primary. It's a super cool way to do it. Now let's move on. Let's go take a look in the primary bath, in the closet, and see what's going on there in terms of shades. So a couple of quick things to show you here in the primary bath. One is just the builder has done just a superb job with this rainforest shower. It's just obviously beautiful, highly functional. The other thing that's really important when we do baths is we want to make sure that we have a lot of ambient light coming in. So we've got shades here that are privacy shades but allow ambient light in, and then we're using 3000 Kelvin lights throughout, because that way when you're putting on your makeup, you're getting ready in the morning, you can see everything perfectly. We've done the exact same color temperature in the primary closet, where everything is easy to see, whether you're looking in a mirror or just picking out clothes. So we're back in the media room. I just want to show you one last type of shade, and that is blackout shades, where you have a room like this, a theater or media room, and you want to bring all the light down for running a movie. Now, one of the things I'll say is there's two ways to do that. One is to put it in channels where you have the shade coming down in a channel and it can completely black out the room, or do what we did here, which is to use drapes on either side, which closes out and blacks out the light channel on either side of the shade. If you're an integrator watching our design videos, trying to think about getting into the smart home business, let me tell you, shades are really, really hard. When you do it, you've got to measure perfectly and your knowledge has got to be great. As a simple example, you can't just measure the width of a window and then go order the shade. You got to measure the top, the middle, and the bottom to make sure it's 100% plumb, and you need to do it again when the house is settling before you order. The other thing to recognize is Lutron shades, which are the top of the line ones, take off 1/8 an inch on either side. Most people miss that, and I go into a warehouse of a company getting into this, and they've got all these shades that didn't fit. You'll see in this home, we even have end caps on certain ones that made perfect sense, and they fit perfectly. There's another 1/8 an inch that you have to account for to do that, to get these things in perfectly. But just another good example of trying to get shades right, and you'll see they work perfectly in this room. So let's talk a little bit about the home control system. This house is based on Control 4, and what Control 4 enables us to do is integrate everything together, meaning the cameras work with the audio, that work with the security. It allows the homeowner to look at a panel like this in the kitchen and be able to see the status of everything in the home with one look. In fact, when we're done with homes, the first thing we do is go customize the home page for the homeowner to have everything they want, whether it's the goodbye button, good night button, the away button, or set into entertain mode on that, and their ability to see everything in one place. We also enable them to do all of the same things using an iPad or an iPhone. Now, what I want to show you is there's a brain behind all of this that powers it all together, along with the networking and switches, and you'll see in this hidden closet is where the rack exists. And if you do a really good job, you can create a beautiful rack that has got your networking in it, your cameras are powered from it, your backup battery, all of the brains to Control 4, and power everything for the whole home. So let's naturally move from this and focus on the audio system, which is powered from this rack. So you just saw the rack room where we have all of the amplifiers to play the music throughout the house. This house has 14 zones of audio, which means the homeowner can be here working in the kitchen and playing one thing here. They could have kids playing something totally different in another location, and maybe someone else is working out in the exercise room and listening to something totally different. And it's all full high-res audio distributed, and there's not a bunch of boxes around the house. It's all wired in with ceiling speakers. And typically in a loan like this, we will either do invisible speakers that are completely invisible in the sheetrock, or what we've done here. And what I want you to see is, in a room like this in the kitchen, we've got 4 speakers, 2 in the front, which are in full stereo here, and 2 in the back, which are there. But what I want you to see from them is, not only have we done the acoustic calculations to figure out where they should go, but it really matters to us the aesthetics. So if you look at them, you'll see how we lined them up perfectly with the lights. And not only did we do that, look at the faux painting on these things. It is just incredible. So when we coordinate with an incredible builder team, you can end up with both great sound and music in a location, but the aesthetics similar to what you see in this ceiling and in all the other locations in this home is just superb. So in addition to the media room, I just want to talk a little bit about televisions in a house. In a room like this, where you've got just this beautiful woodwork and incredible design, having a frame TV looks really, really cool. And you'll see that we're mounting this really, really tightly. And so there's some craftsmanship when you do a frame TV to make sure it's centered perfectly. Also, a lot of times I see people, they mount them way too high, so you're having to arc your head when you're in a living room. You'll see how we've mounted this down lower so you don't have to do that. Also, if you're using one of the new Samsung Frame Pro TVs, you get the advantage of there's anti-glare in here. There's a little bit of backlighting that's better than in the original one. But the other thing is they come with wireless boxes. And I'll just make the point is, if you're using this for the first time or you're learning it, you need to be really, really smart about where that wireless box is and how you connect it. I don't want to go through all that in this video because many homeowners don't need to understand those details. But if you want to make sure you nail it, because you don't want to install it and have it not work, just give us a call at Audio Advice or reach out to us, and we're happy to give you some of the tips and tricks. So we're now in the exercise room before all the equipment's been brought in. I just want to point out something interesting here. This is a frame TV mounted on mirrors, and you can imagine the complexity of trying to get that done. So you've got to have really, really good coordination between the builder and the electronics integrator like us, as well as the people working on the mirrors. So what actually happened here is we mapped out exactly where it went, mapped it out with blue tape. Then we need to put a back box in, bring up the electrical to it, behind where it's gonna go, then measure the distance of the mirrors, then allow the mirror company to come in, put the mirrors in, and boom, we can drop it right on. But it's gotta be done perfectly so you don't mess up the mirrors or the TV. Okay, so imagine you're leaving the house. You can see here, the keypad has got a home button for when you come in and a away button when you leave. But that's not even necessary when we can tie the security system perfectly into the smart home system. In our Signature Series systems, we give the homeowner an option to do some really cool things. And let me give you a sense of how they work. They can get here and just hit exit when they leave the house. It will automatically put it into a 60-second countdown timer, turn on the lights all the way to the garage to make sure they're on for those 60 seconds. Then at the end of the 60 seconds, it can turn off all the lights, turn off all the music in the house and all the TVs, and put it in a secure state. Then when they come home, before they even touch the security system, it can see they're here and the lights will automatically come back on, so you're not coming into a dark home. But while it's in the secure mode, a couple interesting things are going on. One, if the security system got tripped, in this particular house, what the homeowner wanted was the ability to have the cameras come up on the TVs. So literally it gets tripped, the televisions will turn on, and the cameras will be on them. So it's just super cool capability when you tie these things in together. You might imagine on a property like this, the homeowner cares about great security and great cameras. So let's go out and talk a little bit about cameras and take a look at some of that. So we have out here high-performance Luma hybrid cameras. These are a step up from your mass market cameras that are things like your Rings and Nests. So they're higher performance chipsets, and a little bit better capability in terms of the hardware. But the other thing that's really cool about it, if you think about having your mass market products, if you lose Wi-Fi, they generally don't work. If you lose internet, they don't work. If you lose power, they don't work. So in a high performance home like this, what we do is we bring these back fully hardwired so they don't rely on Wi-Fi. They also have an NVR where they record into the rack room, so they do not need to rely on internet, even though they can be seen just like a mass market one externally on phones, etc. And then finally, they don't even need to rely on power to the house because we put them on battery backups. So these have really good IR for night so they can see at night, but we can also set them up so if you really want to see something that's happened at night, you can get into full color mode. They also have a deterrence mode, which is like my favorite capability. And what deterrence mode is all about is instead of waiting for something to happen, it's to deter people before it does. So you can set it up in a Control 4 system like we have here, where it says if the alarm system is armed and someone comes in and it detects motion from a human, it can then turn a bright light on that human and say, please leave, or whatever we want it to say. So on front doors, we're really trying to find the balance between a high performance camera doorbell and something that looks good. And you can see we've matched up the black here. The other thing that's really interesting about these, people often ask us, how do we mount these sort of higher end ones flush against the brick wall? And what we do for a pre-wire, for those of you that are getting into the business, we actually take a 1-inch conduit and we put the wire in it when we do the pre-wire before the brick mason comes in, which then enables it to stay there. When we put this on, we can take the wires and push it back into it, and it makes for a perfect install. The really cool thing when we integrate Control 4 Chime with a Control 4 system is that we've got the ability so that when your child comes home from school, you can see them when they come in, you can see when a package is dropped off, but you don't need to get hit 50,000 times for all sorts of messages or birds flying by. Now, let me show you something really cool out back in terms of cameras. So I want to touch on one more thing about cameras and security. It gets really into the nitty-gritty details that a lot of people don't think about. One is when you're running a gate. So this property has a gate out front. If it's far enough, we'll typically use a fiber optic cable that we'll put there to go there. Another example is the homeowner on this property wanted to have a camera hidden back in the woods so they could look back at the property but also see the kids while they were playing. Well, it turns out if we ran that from the rack all the way out to the camera in the woods, it was too far for the run. So it was over 100 meters. So we solved that by running a cable from the rack down into the crawl space to the edge of the home, and then we went from the edge of the home with PoE all the way out to the woods, and we had enough distance for a perfect picture. So one of the big things people love now is outdoor living. My wife and I love to go play pickleball, and when I saw this pickleball court sitting here and the way this was designed, it's like, this is incredible to have in your backyard. But I want to show you a few key things when you're doing outdoor living. One, you'll notice these landscape speakers, and as these bushes get bigger, you'll see these landscape speakers are hidden to look like landscape lights, even though they're speakers. And so there's 4 of them along here to play for the pickleball court. One of the things you'll notice as I walk you through this outdoor living area is that we can control the music just like the entire house to play one thing in one place and another thing in another place. But we can also, if you've got a big party out here, you can turn up the volume in one location or turn it down in another. So if you move from here, from the pickleball court, and you'll see we've actually got a hidden subwoofer underground, so we can actually make this sound incredible even though it's outdoors. A lot of times you'll see outdoor speakers that we'll put on the side of a house that are box speakers or rock speakers or planters. But the biggest thing that's taking off now is this distributed system like this landscape system. You'll also notice 2 here that are pointing right at the hot tub. Now, why do we do that? A lot of times when people turn on the jets on the hot tub, they need it louder in that area than other areas. So they have the ability to turn up this section of it compared to maybe what's going on over at pickleball. What you'll see over here, we've got the hot tub water is going into the main pool, but you'll also see we've got more speakers over here directed at the pool. There's 2 over here, plus another 2 over there. And actually we have 2 subwoofers around the pool itself so we can get full sound from it. Obviously for outdoor living, having your grill area in the porch, and obviously electronic screens that will drop here. And then outdoor TVs is a really interesting thing to talk about. People often ask us, can I just put a regular TV outdoors? Well, the answer is you can, but oftentimes it could die in 6 months, a year, 2 years. You don't know when it'll die. The other thing is they tend not to be as bright. So if you get a dedicated outdoor television, it's a lot brighter, so it looks way better when you're outside. The primary thing that breaks these things is they get moisture in them from the outside, or they get too hot and it degrades the TV. So generally we tell people, get a good outdoor TV, it'll last a long time, you'll generally be much, much happier. So I want to step up to the porch and just show you some neat little details and things that are done on this porch. One, what you'll see is in terms of music, we actually have 4 speakers that are spread out, and we found the right areas. You'll notice they work perfectly over this island and then over that area near the television to give the immersive sound in here that can be perfectly synchronized with everything out there with one button press. You'll see there are DMF lights in here that match everything that we've done on the inside. But a cool little trick that we've done here, we've actually aimed the lights that are right next to these columns so we can light up the column, and we put a special lens in it, which is a linear lens that will light down the column at nighttime. Just super cool. So this is also a perfect place to talk about networking. You'll see that we've put an access point all the way out here and custom painted it to match the ceiling. What that does is give Wi-Fi all the way out into this backyard. Now, if you're doing a large luxury home like this, you can't just go buy something at Best Buy and stick it up and expect it to work and give you coverage over the property. So we do a business grade, enterprise grade network that has access points that we've hardwired back to the switch in the rack that we saw earlier. That switch then is super fast and enables us to provide a full network no matter where you go on this property, all the way up to the front gate. One of the things I hope you're taking away from this is the importance not only of the attention to detail and the craftsmanship that Audio Advice brings to all these types of projects, but the importance of being able to collaborate with other high-performance partners to pull off a project of this quality. In particular, I just want to mention how great a home builder and homeowner we've been able to work with on this. They have just been terrific. If you're interested in seeing more smart home videos like this, go to the smart home section of audioadvice.com, where we have showcase videos on all sorts of different kinds of homes, from modern all the way to traditional. In addition, if you want to deep dive into something like security or networking or shades, we have videos on every discipline that go really, really deep. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And if you're looking for someone to work with you on a project, check out our locations page, because we may have a great location near you. And if we don't, we'd be happy to help you find who that best world-class player is in your market. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.